Telling you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'd ask everybody to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you shut that on? Someone just got an email or a text. Something blamed. All right, so first thing on the agenda for tonight, now it's a lousy night, so we want to get people in and out, is a notice intent to convey land subject to Mass General Laws, Chapter 61A, the Ingram and Lespina. I guess there's a small piece of land that we're going to swap. There is a request, and I guess we have a right of first refusal?
Yes.
Okay, the town does, not us personally, but, okay, so come on up, Jay. And if you want to come up, are you part of the transaction too? Sure.
Mr. Ingham, I contacted him earlier. He was going to be coming in, hopefully soon, around 7:15.
Yeah. All right. You guys can pull up another chair if you want. That's fine.
My name is Mark. This is my wife, Shauna.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi guys. How you doing?
Good
All right. So fill us in.
It's a piece of land that Mr. Ingraham owns, which is a Christmas Tree Farm over on Ballpate.
Yep.
It's for about 15,000 square feet. Mr. Lespina's property backs up to Mr. Ingraham's land. Now, Mr. Lespina and Mr. Ingraham are going to trade land.
Okay.
Mr. Lespina's going to get 32,000. No, Mr. Ingraham's going to get 32,000 square feet, and Mr. Lespina's getting 15,000 square feet, and Mr. Ingraham's getting 32,000 square feet.
Okay.
The problem arises because Mr. Ingraham's land is in 61A, which is chapter land.
Right.
And for somebody to take chapter land out, this is the process they're gonna go through.
Okay.
The town has to see if they want it,
Right.
and if they don't, then they can do the swap.
Okay. So the particular piece of land backs up to a house lot on Blueberry. Is that?
Yes.
Can we,
by
yeah. Can
Blueberry.
we see that?
It's map 14, lot 14A.
I have a. Where's the easel? Thought we had an easel. Okay. So.
Blueberry Lane's top right.
Yep. Got it right there.
5.
Okay.
No, corner of
Lot
the lot,
4?
which would be like the southwest corner.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See where your thumb is?
Yep. Okay.
And the northeast corner, Mr. Lespina's gonna give Mr. Ingraham the northeast corner, and Mr. Ingraham's gonna give Mr. Lespina the northwest corner of his lot. Map 14, lot 14A.
Okay. Right here.
Right here. Trading this for this.
Okay. So they butt each other. They
Basically,
abut
and
the
it's
basic
landlocked, there's no access to these corners.
Okay.
The only real use would be to Mr. Lespina.
Right, makes sense. Okay. And I take it you're gonna be building a home soon
Yes.
on
Yes,
Blueberry?
yes.
Okay, nice area.
We're the last ones to go in.
Okay, great, yeah. That street's really coming along now, starting to
really
build.
is.
Yeah, looks good too. I drive through there every once in a while, so I'm a couple of streets over, so. All right, any questions for Jay or the Lespinas? Gary, any questions? Sue, any questions? No?
No, other than whatever we need to make a decision on.
Right, and there's no useful, for town, there's no useful,
Not that I can see.
right, there's no real use for us, for the town to
And
acquire the
the
property.
assessor's office doesn't usually do things like this, but Mr. Lespina's just done so much work on this. And Mike asked me to show up here tonight.
Yeah, okay,
Just to give you guys a little background on what's happening.
all right. Gary, do you have a question?
No, I mean, I did read where I guess the Lespinas are making some adjustments for taxes on the land or something with it, $180.
That is a
or
rollback
something.
tax,
Yeah.
which is like $175 because the 61A valuations are so low to begin with,
Yeah.
So, that's part of the Mass General Law that this has to take place, is a rollback tax that has to take place.
Okay.
In reality,
$5 recording fee and things like that.
And is that a temporary thing, or is it forever on that particular piece of property?
Mr. Ingraham's property?
Well, the rollback, is that a one-time thing, or is it?
Yeah, it's a one time, if Mr. Ingraham wants to do it again, he has to pay another rollback tax.
Oh, okay, all right, well, that's the question. All right.
He's got like 20 acres, so he's only taking 15,000 square feet, so that rollback tax is only on 15,000 square
Right,
feet,
on the piece
not
that's
the
moved.
20 acres.
It doesn't actually matter that they're actually adding more land. Will the new land still be under the
He's got
same
he's
chapter?
got to work for 2 years to put it back in the chapter.
Okay,
So
okay.
there's
So it can't
you know,
go directly in there.
right. He's got to put Christmas trees on it for a couple of years and show, and give a plan to the forestry department, the Mass Forestry Department, showing that he's been using the land for 2 years, and then he can put that 32,000 square feet into chapter. But it's only after 2 years.
Good, if I may, the only other question is, I'm sure you wouldn't be getting a building permit if it didn't, but this must have all approval of the planning board, and that I take it.
Yeah, you guys have a permit to build, have you,
There was a permit to build on the prior older lot, the original
Okay.
lot. So yes, there is a permit to build. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's for a certain type of configuring of the house.
okay.
Yes.
So this will make you probably rethink it a little bit with a little additional
Yes.
shape, size, okay.
It'll allow put a garage in that area.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
That's how it all started.
Yeah. All right, so there's no real, there's no, real use for the town, so our recommendation would be to go ahead and approve it, so. All right, do we wanna take a shot at, approving this? Stu, you wanna make a motion, or you want?
Yeah, I was trying to look here, so, Mr. Chair, I move that we, approve the convey of land here, is that the one we want?
We're waiving it.
Oh, the selectmen vote that we're not interested in exercising the town's option to purchase Lot B as presented.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous.
Great.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank
and,
you.
I'll ride by and see how the progress is going.
Yes,
I always-
we're very excited.
All right, great.
You should be.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. All right.
Thanks, Jay.
All right. We have an ESCO update. Mike, you want to give us an ESCO update?
Yes, we conducted our final walkthrough last Thursday. Took us about, 5-6 hours to go through every building. And we developed a punch list of items, mostly lighting issues in the schools.
Okay.
Certain banks of lights were missed, or certain halls weren't completed at all. So the school and the and ABM have that punch list, and they'll be working on that. So we're basically 95% complete. The biggest chunk that isn't complete is the cooling tower. I think I've indicated that to the board before. Everything's it's connected and everything's installed. It just can't be tested until the weather gets hot.
Yeah.
And we have a target date in June for that.
Wednesday's going to be 60, maybe. I don't know.
I tried to
Crazy
get I
weather.
tried to get them to do it earlier in January
crazy
when we
weather.
were having our January thaw, but
Right.
no, we need a little bit more than 60.
How big is the punch list? Is it really? Is it?
If they get the lighting crews in there, it's just a matter of days,
Okay.
and they work second shift anyway, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't take them long at all.
Okay. All right. So you were happy with the work and the quality of the work? And
Very much so. And our OPM, Beth Greenblatt from Beacon Solutions, has been excellent.
it was worth the money.
She was definitely worth the money. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Before I do budget update, I did skip over the old business, not on purpose. This was just an oversight on my part. Annual town meeting is May 6th, just so everybody understands. The warrant is open at 7 p.m. at the middle high school. I would like to have a placeholder put there for a non-solicitation law, bylaw. which would, again, I've been working with public safety on this issue, which would prohibit door-to-door sales where people will be knocking on people's doors in the middle of dinner time and walking around neighborhoods trying to sell different items, whether it's Verizon or it's vacuum cleaners or whatever it is. So I'm working with public safety on that particular issue, specifically Lieutenant Cudmore and I have been talking about this for a while and doing some research. So I'd like to put a placeholder in on that. There's no vote required on that, right, Mike?
No.
Okay. And I guess that's it as far as the warrant's concerned, unless anybody has anything else to add. All right, budget update, Mike.
Wednesday, I'll be presenting the town budget to the Finance Committee. And I just wanted, state budget was prominently in the news last week. Governor announced his budget and submitted it to the legislature. It's House number 1. So that gives us some guidance. It's not the be-all and the end-all. Matter of fact, there's going to be at least 2 other versions, one from the House and one from the Senate. And then the 3 of them will get melded together and we'll come out with a budget sooner or later. But the department heads have submitted their department budgets back in the middle of December, and I've been putting them all together into a town budget since. This year, in the past, the departments were asked to submit 2 budgets, a level funded budget and a level services budget. This year, the Finance Committee asked them to submit what could be called a hybrid level services budget, which is the same amount of appropriations as contained in the operating budget for the previous year, reduced and increased, as the case may be, by debt service, contracts, and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law, and further reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the previous year's operating budget. And for the purpose of this paragraph, the one-time expenditures shall be appropriations not likely to recur in succeeding in the succeeding budget as determined by the Finance Committee. They were further, the departments were further advised that there'd be no increases in personnel levels as far as FTEs from the last year's budget. However, the town department salary lines will be increased by 2.5% for both union and non-union. The school department salary line items are going to be dictated by the various collective bargaining agreements that are in place. And we've set up, when you get your budget book, it's going to look different. At least the summary pages are going to look different because we're in the process of changing our chart of accounts. I had hoped to have it done before the budget season started so everybody could input their own budget. Well, I had hoped everybody could input their own budget, but I found out that we had to change the chart of accounts before that could happen. And that can only be done at the end of a fiscal year to prepare it for the beginning of the new fiscal year. So we'll be able to input this FY14 budget into Munis, but we have to wait. And changing a chart of accounts, the chart of accounts, is a significant change as far as financial accounting is concerned, especially since we have not changed our chart of accounts since the 80s at the earliest.
Yes, it's a daunting task.
Yeah.
Plus
Line
move-
item by line item.
Plus moving the history over and all,
It's
it's a
the
lot of work.
history
It's the
that,
problem,
that, you know, you don't wanna lose it.
Right.
So, and it's gonna cost a little bit too. Cause we need, our financial software people to do it, and we're gonna need a.
So that's gonna be a major conversion that they'll handle. They'll do all the mapping, move it over,
Yes.
slide it over for you.
Yep.
Okay. Do we put anything in the budget for that?
There will be,
There will be. Okay.
yeah. That's part of the last, items that I'm working on between now and Wednesday night.
All right.
So with that said, you'll see a different format. Also different this year, the FinCom did a lot of discussion last year about revolving funds. You know, and they're basically off-budget expenditures. Well, the Finance Committee is going to be requiring separate budgets for each non-general fund. And the non-general fund funds include revolving funds, grants, and special revenue funds. I gave every department a new formatted budget sheet to handle that. So, you know, in the spirit of the transparency and so the citizens can know what we're actually spending our money on. For instance, the school, even though the school has a $13-14 million budget, they also spend another $2 million on with revolving funds, and they never appear in a budget document anywhere. I'm not just picking on the school; they have the most,
Right.
but the Conservation Commission has. I mean, I don't know if there are any departments that don't have at least some type of revolving fund. They range in size from 30,000 to, 2,000. So, but when you add them all up together, they're a lot of money.
Plus, it's off the book spending in a way that we don't really track, you know. What about reserve funds, for instance, specifically? It's not a revenue, but it's money that's put aside, within the assessing. You know, that reserve account for court cases or disputes, or rebates that accrue. Is that an accrual from an expense, or is that coming off the cherry sheet?
No, it doesn't come off the cherry sheet. It's a budgeted. It's a budgeted item.
Oh, okay.
We budget $70,000 a year.
Right. But the reconciliation of that, and when, for instance, just like we track all the bonds that we take and all the borrowings we take, and we have amortization schedules, what about those, a reconciliation of that so that we know if these, when it's time to back off the accrual
Well,
amounts?
all revolving, even though they're off budget, they're not off accounts. I
Understand.
mean,
Right, right, no, I understand.
we keep track of them, and for instance, the overlay account that you referred to for assessing, it's $70,000 a year, and if they don't spend that much in abatements, it rolls over to another fund, to a fund, and they also have to set aside if they do get claims for abatements, they have to set that money aside in an account.
Until
And-
it's finalized, right?
Right. And it takes, several years at least to get those things adjudicated, and sometimes longer.
Right.
But the Board of Assessors now has a policy that they keep a rolling track by year, and at the end of the 5th year, unless there's a real, unless it's still tied up in litigation, that money in that 5th year will revert back to the general fund.
Okay. I was just using those as one of the examples. All right. Good.
So, as far as the governor's budget and the effect of it may have on on our budget, and these are what referred to as cherry sheet items. This is,
I read in there, if the governor's proposal was accepted and passed, that there could be the possibility of up to about a 3.5% increase in local aid, so 3.4%.
well,
And I didn't like the way they were gonna distribute it,
statewide, yes.
but that doesn't mean we're gonna
But-
get 3.4.
Right.
No,
Median income, property valuation, there was a third calculation that they were gonna look at.
well, that's just for, there's a new way of distributing, an additional new way of distributing unrestricted general government aid, which I think is what you're talking about, because they have, it's a formula, it's local, formula local aid, they call it. And it's based on the town's wealth factor, which is their overall assessed value and their income. And they get they get the income from the income tax, state income tax, so. And there was talk about additional Chapter 70 money. Well, and that's a master formula as well, which I don't know too many people in the state
Couldn't even figure it out.
can figure it out. But based on what the governor submitted, the town is in line to receive an additional $37,700 in Chapter 70 money, which is only a 0.75% increase. It's actually 0.73%. And total, all education items, really, there's the state giveth and the state taketh away too. So some of these items are going up, some of them are going down. The net change is a plus 41,421 in education aid. Then in that next area, the general government receipts, if the formula local aid sticks, then the town does may gain an extra $28,753. And you'll also note that there were, well, at least significant in the way of percentage increases in the veterans' benefits and the exemptions for vets, blind persons, and surviving spouse and elderly. The veterans' benefits are going up 25% from $34,600 to $43,293, and then
Isn't that in arrears though, Mike? Those are based on, what we did the previous year.
yes, yeah,
understand,
they have
yeah.
to figure all that out
Right.
in arrears, and then the exemptions are going up 47%, or a total of almost $8,000. So the aid to general government is actually increasing by 5.44%.
Excuse me.
And our total receipts, based on education and general government, stand to increase by $86,926 if this holds. Now, the second sheet is the takeaways.
Sorry.
But the big news here, the good news here is the amount they're taking away is $34,900 less than they took last year.
Okay.
And the majority of that, more than the majority of it, is charter school sending tuition and Essex County Tech sending tuition. Those two items alone dropped almost $68,000. But the net increase, or the net decrease is $34,940. So if you want to net the whole thing out, we're looking at a net gain of $121,866.
Okay.
Which, after suffering through years and years and years of level funding, this is at least a good start for
Yeah.
us. I'm not overly optimistic that it'll stay this way, but it's better than the governor coming out with a across-the-board 5% cut, which has happened in the past recent years. So that's on the revenue side. On the expense side, just some highlights. As I mentioned, the salaries on the town side are going up 2.5%. That translates into an increase of $77,625 over last year. And it's almost evenly split between union and non-union. Non-union are 38,346, and union increases are 39,279. The second, and that's only the second largest increase. The largest increase is going to be in the area of pensions. We've been seeing 10% increases annually for the last several years, and that's basically it's going to be an increase this year of $114,994.
Over last year?
Yes,
Okay.
we had a six-figure increase last year as well. So
And that's the town's portion that we're funding.
that's right.
So, what the employees contribute on their own, right, automatically.
Employees contribute 9%, which is high based on other states anyway.
Right.
So those are the two biggest increases. I don't anticipate an increase in health insurance. This will be the third year in a row. And I don't want to get too far out on a limb, but there may be a decrease. And actually, I feel pretty good about a decrease because we're going to, before this year's end, go to plan design change.
Right.
So they'll definitely, because of the law, the new healthcare plan design change law, we do have to share at least 25% of any savings with the union personnel
And retirees.
and retirees, retired union personnel.
Understand. Right.
So the exact amount of savings is pretty hard to estimate at this point in time.
We've been, if we did move in that direction and we're successful in negotiating an agreement, we're probably looking more of the savings into 15 rather than 14.
No, we'll definitely get savings in 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. And they'll be, relatively substantial. I mean, we spend over $2.2 million, so even if we save 10%,
Right. That's a significant number.
that's a good chunk of change.
Help fund the pension piece of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other areas where there's going to be some savings, actually, and I get this question every year from the board and from the finance committee, it revolves around debt service. Our debt service is dropping. We picked up, we lost a net of about $77,000 in principal payments. Some of it was debt excluded, so we don't get the dollar budget value,
Right.
it comes off the levy limit. So the taxpayers see less of,
Little bit of a break.
on the levy. But we do have some additional interest expenses. Some of the interest for the school borrowings, we've been borrowing short-term. Some of that will have to be paid this year. And we'll have new interest payments, although those will be netted out. But we have to show the expense for the ESCO interest.
Right. So we'll gain the income back for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll basically show up in the free cash, because it'll come back as a revenue to us.
And in terms of budgeting for the school, because we would be taking some advances, obviously, in 14 as we put a shovel in the ground in August or September of 13. So we have to project that out too, right? Do we have that?
Yeah, we have a figure right now of $50,000 in interest for the school construction.
Right. But that's debt excluded.
It is.
So it does have a major impact, but in terms of the budget, we have the revenue source to offset the expense. Because it's fully debt, it's a debt service, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
technically, but
all right. There's
Yes.
a little lag there, I understand,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. All right, makes sense.
and then a couple other areas where that are unknowns right now, although I feel comfortable and confident we won't see. We took some big hits in unemployment insurance, workers' comp, and property and liability insurance last year. I don't see them going up much more, because some of them went up 25%.
Right.
But we're stuck with that 25% increase for at least 3 years. But I don't see it going any higher. And I do expect to see savings in energy. That was the whole reason for the ESCO, above and beyond what we'll be paying in interest and principal too.
Okay.
And we did some things with our telephone service a year and a half ago. We had to share a bunch of the savings with the consultant that we hired, and this year all that savings is ours. We're not sharing it. So that should start coming back to us. Those are the highlights of the budget. And like I told you before the meeting, we'll have your budget books ready on Wednesday. They'll be late Wednesday, I'm sure, but they'll be ready.
Okay.
And as far as the current year's budget, I think you all got a copy of the year-to-date expense budget, and we're all within the variance levels that we should be in.
Seasonable tolerances.
Yes.
All right, good. Any questions for Mike on the budget? No? No. Okay. All right, thank you, Mike.
You're
Good job. And, hopefully we'll get some real good news, and the budget, the governor and the legislature will work out a reasonable budget that kind of helps us a little bit more than it has in the past, hopefully. The good thing is they're tackling the bigger items, like the Chapter 70 money, so that's more of a hot button issue where they're gonna probably wanna try to at least level fund or increase, so, if it's the small line items that usually don't do as well, so, don't survive those negotiations.
Oh, excuse me, Mr.
Sure.
Chair, one other thing, in anticipation of your questions. The other question I always get asked is the status of our
The cash.
free cash, stabilization, and capital. And this is an update as of today.
Okay.
We had almost 1.3 million in certified free cash. We spent 735,000 of it at the fall town meeting, and that gives us a remaining balance of 560,784. A large portion of that has to be reserved for snow and ice. But we should be based on the first half of the winter, things are going fairly decently.
see how
That could
February
change
does.
overnight.
See how February does.
Yeah.
Could change tonight.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, if the most we've spent in even our worst years is additional $300,000. So, on top of the 104 that we already have budgeted.
And we may see a portion of this 250,000 come back from the schools on the
Right.
special education. Maybe, we'll see, when they,
True.
when they have their numbers together on that. You know what would be helpful, Mike, is to give us the percentage beside the stabilization fund.
Okay.
You know, that is, 1,214,177 is to the total budget as a percentage. You know, for the future, if you can plug that number in there, that would be great.
Okay.
Because then that gives us the idea, you know, gives us some guidelines. I mean, the recommended number is 5%. We're not there yet. We're just a little bit under. Okay?
Yep.
All right, great. All right, that's very helpful. Thank you. All right, appointments and approvals. I think we're moving on to that. Before we have a couple approvals. Let's do those. The first one is appointing Peter Durkee to the Synthetic Turf Committee. You want to take a shot at that?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Peter Durkee to the Synthetic Turf Advisory Committee as a voting member with a term expiring 6/30/13.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Just, he is one of our,
Yes. Right, I have it right here. He would be, we appointed, let's see, Parks and Rec, Jim Demento, two from GAA. We appointed Mike Anderson as a voting member. That was one of ours, and we appointed Carol as a non-voting. So we have one voting available, which would be this one,
Right.
and one non-voting. Besides, we also need to have one recommended by Finance and Advisory.
that's, yeah, so he
It doesn't
would-
have to be a Finance and Advisory Committee member, it can be somebody recommended by them that we would take into
That-
consideration.
Agreed, so we have, right now have as let's say, two voting would be Mike Anderson.
And Peter Durkee.
And Peter Durkee, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome, sir. All right, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, congratulations, Peter. Make sure we go and get sworn in. Okay, so we also have a request from Joan Laporto, from the school side to be a request to be a non-voting member, and that would fulfill our obligation as far as appointing people to this committee. She is the business agent for the schools, Mike, do I have that right? That's the official title?
Her official title is,
Finance and Operations Director.
Okay,
That's
Finance and
right.
Operations Director, there you go.
thank you, Stu.
All right, there you go, Stu.
It's on the
Got my
tip of my
cheat sheet
tongue.
there.
As Director of Finance and Operations, sorry.
I did have my cheat sheet.
So, I mean, we have that's been on our agenda for a while. I didn't know if anybody else was gonna be, also requesting. So, nobody else has come forward at this point, and that's I'm not just saying we appoint Joan because nobody else has come forward, but, I think it's time we fulfill our last, appointment, and then we'll, again, try to work with Finance and Advisory Committee to get one more person on, and then we'll have a full committee.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Joan Laporto to the Synthetic Turf Advisory Committee as a non-voting member with a term expiring 6/30/13.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. So that, we have a full synthetic turf advisory committee, other than we would need a recommendation from Finance and Advisory to appoint one more person to that committee. Last thing on the agenda for tonight on the appointments is Personnel Committee. And at this point, we need two people to serve. And we're asking the general public, anybody that has any experience in or works in that field that would like to step up. I know the commitment is not, they don't meet every week. Okay, you're the chairman here, Mr. Rich?
As needed, we need.
As needed. And the other thing, the other plan of action is to, at our next selectmen meeting, is to request a Finance Advisory Committee representative, the town moderator, and us, with a recommendation to reappoint Robin. Yeah, okay, I'm having a mental,
O'Malley.
O'Malley. I'm at the block there. Robin O'Malley, to reappoint Robin O'Malley.
Is it to reappoint her or to reform her appointment? You reappoint her, I mean, we're
Reform her appointment? We can discuss that when we get there, I guess. And obviously, Chris, you'll be there to talk about what we really need to
I
do.
think what we need to do is to find out, reforming it, because then that puts in everything that we've done from last June
Yeah.
in question.
Yeah, okay. Well, then, if that's the actual vote, well, maybe we should just refer to legal counsel on what the vote should be, if
Well,
that's what we want to do.
As I put in my email, I think you'll see there is a town council opinion floating around somewhere
Okay.
that says,
I'll grab it.
that,
That's what we should do.
Until replaced appointed positions can sit and
Right.
vote.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. You're right. Okay. All right, so we'll get the actual wording on that, Mike. We want to actually have that motion ahead of time, but we would request town moderator and and somebody from, well, we have to talk to finance advisory. I'll talk with Sandy about having them vote also at their meeting and then come with us, and then we'll do a joint vote. That's how.
Well, they're meeting on Wednesday. I was gonna bring the subject up
Yeah,
then.
okay. Let's get that done. This way we're ready to rock at the next meeting. Okay? All right.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Are we okay then? I did an interesting thing today that I haven't done in a while. I opened up my email. And I did see, I had written down a note about the personnel board
Yep.
because of the email that was there. So are we,
Yeah, we're
it
okay.
appears we've sort of failed as some boards to make appointments.
Right,
And that caused some delay.
right.
And so we're okay there now, going forward. We're hoping to make those corrections.
Yep, we have a plan of action and we're gonna keep on top of it for the future.
Okay. Do we have any other boards that are perhaps in the same situation?
Well, I get a periodic update from the town clerk on people that haven't gone to get sworn in. It doesn't appear that we really have that many issues as far as we haven't appointed somebody. It's getting people to go swear in is
Yes.
the issue. That's more the issue, you know, there's been a list, and then Janet really helps me, because I go, I get it from the town clerk, and I give it to Janet, and say, get a hold of these people and see if we can get them in here, and then we do a plea over here on TV for people to come down, and if you're working on these boards, to make sure that you get sworn in, so there's no question. It can't be, there's no challenges legally, that, you really weren't a member, and all this other stuff, so. So we need people to get sworn in, so, Mike?
Well, there is still just when you think things are getting better, one step forward, two step back, because Beverly has found a volunteer for the finance committee,
Yep.
but one of the finance committee members is dropping off, so we're still gonna be at 7,
Okay,
and we need 9 people on that board.
all right, so we need 2 people for the finance committee also. So if people wanna, step up, and in terms of finance committee, it's a learning process. So you don't necessarily have to have that accounting background. They'll certainly teach you a lot, as I know. Having an accounting background, I learned a lot. Even though I thought I had an accounting background. It's
Different
totally
kind of
different.
accounting.
It's different accounting. It's definitely different.
It's where you learn how the sausage is made, as I
Yeah,
say.
really, yeah, exactly. So, all right, so we need 2 people for FinCom too, to step up and contact the town moderator, or through Janet, contact Town Hall. We have one other appointment. We have a request from the school building committee to appoint Margaret Mayer, principal of the Pearly School, to the school building committee as a non-voting member. So, anybody want to make that motion? Stu?
Sure, I'll make that motion. I move that we appoint Margaret Mayer, principal of the Pearly School, to the Building School Committee as a non-voting member with a term expiring June 30th of 13.
Okay, do we have a second? All right, I'll second the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay.
Okay. The ayes have it. All right, any other new business to come forth to the Board of Selectmen tonight? Did we miss anything? I think we're all set. So, we're good. Be careful out there. It's a little slippery, and good night, everybody. That motion to adjourn?
Second. So moved.
Second? There we go.
Excuse me.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.